Welcome back to Soft Truths, a space where we let our silence speak and our truths soften the weight we carry. I'm Grace, and if you've ever felt like the glue that held everyone else together, this episode is especially for you. Today, we're going to talk about something heavy but honest. What happens when you're the responsible one, the caregiver, the peacemaker, and one day you just can't anymore? This is for the ones who show up, even when they're tired, who say yes when they want to scream no, who are praised for being so strong, but secretly wonder if anyone would notice if they fell apart. And if that's you, please know, you're not alone. Before we dive in, if you're finding these stories helpful, I'd truly appreciate if you hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. Your support keeps this space alive. And if you feel seen by this, or want to help someone else feel less alone, drop a comment. Even just a simple "me too" can be powerful. I can't tell you the exact moment I became the responsible one. There wasn't a defining event, no dramatic turning point. It was more like a slow slide-on expectation at a time, one quiet sacrifice after another until it became who I was. I was maybe 8 the first time I cooked dinner for the whole family. My mom was lying in the dark, her migraines having taken over again. And my dad was just gone, not literally. He was in the garage, fixing a car he didn't know how to fix. Or watching television with the volume too loud, pretending the world couldn't reach him. That night, I microwaved frozen peas, made boxed mac and cheese, and poured glasses of tap water like it was a dinner party. My little brother thought it was fun. I felt important, needed. Like maybe if I just kept showing up like this, things would stay together. It became a pattern. By middle school, I was setting my own dentist appointments, reminding my mom about bills, and covering for my sister when she skipped class. By high school, I was helping my dad figure out online banking, soothing my mom's panic attacks, and trying to shield my siblings from the storms inside our home. Everyone started calling me mature for my age. Teachers said I was so dependable. Neighbors told my parents they were lucky to have a daughter like me. And I wore those compliments like armor. Because somewhere deep down, I believed, if I'm useful enough, maybe I'll be loved consistently. But being responsible doesn't mean you're okay. It just means you've learned to ignore your own needs long enough to make sure everyone else's are met. I remember one weekend in my early 20s. I was working full-time, taking night classes, and still coming home to help out. My brother had just moved back in after a rough breakup. My mom had started forgetting things again. My dad had developed a habit of yelling about politics, about gas prices, about nothing and everything. That Saturday, I spent the entire morning running errands. Pharmacy, dry cleaners, groceries. I didn't eat until 3 p.m. because I'd forgotten I was even hungry. By 5, I was back home scrubbing the kitchen because guests might come by. Spoiler, they didn't. At 8 p.m., I finally sat down with a frozen meal and a few minutes of quiet. That's when my phone rang. My sister, crying. Her car had died 2 towns over. Could I come? Of course I went. I always went. I drove an hour in the rain, paid for her tow, bought her dinner, then dropped her at a friend's place. I got home past midnight, soaked and exhausted. No one was waiting up. No one asked if I was okay. And that night, in the silence of my tiny apartment, something cracked open. I stood in the bathroom, toothbrush in hand, and stared at my reflection. My face looked tired. Not just from the day, but from a lifetime of holding it all together. I whispered to myself, what happens if I stop? But I didn't. Not yet. Because stopping felt like failure. Like dropping a role I didn't ask for, but learned to wear like skin. So I kept going. I paid bills I didn't owe. Took calls at 2 a.m. Showed up to family dinners, invisible, but still brought dessert. Because that's what the responsible one does. People around me assumed I was fine. Why wouldn't they? I never complained. I was the strong one, the problem solver, the one who just gets things done. Until one day, I didn't. It was a Tuesday. I was 29, I just finished a double shift and come home to 17 unread texts. My mom needed help with insurance paperwork. My dad had forgotten to pay the mortgage again. My brother wanted to borrow money. My sister was planning a baby shower and expected me to organize everything. I sat on the edge of my bed, phone in hand, and I froze. No tears, no screaming, just stillness. I stared at the screen for what felt like hours, reading and rereading the same messages. And for the first time in my life, I said, "Number." Not out loud, not to them, but inside, to myself. No more. Not like this. I turned off my phone. I made myself a bowl of cereal and curled up on the couch. I didn't reply to a single message that night. And the world didn't end. But something shifted. It was the first time I chose rest over obligation. The first time I gave myself permission to be just a person, not a role, not a fixer, not a savior. I wish I could say everyone understood, that my family suddenly saw me differently, valued my boundaries, appreciated the years I gave them. But they didn't. Some were confused. Some were angry. Some called me selfish. But I wasn't selfish. I was tired, and finally honest about it. Burnout doesn't always arrive like a thunderstorm, sudden and loud. Sometimes it's a quiet erosion, a missed meal, a forgotten birthday, your own. A constant sense of being a few steps behind in your own life. For me, it was waking up and feeling dread before my feet even hit the floor. It was snapping at a barista because they got my coffee order wrong, not because I cared about the drink, but because I had nothing left to give. It was lying in bed at 2 a.m., heart racing, wondering if this was what adulthood really was, being everyone's safety net while sinking yourself. The final straw wasn't dramatic. My sister asked me again to help her move. I stared at the text for 10 minutes. Then I turned off my phone and didn't reply. No explanation, no excuse, just a full body no. I cried afterward, not from guilt, but relief, because in that moment, I had finally chosen me. Healing didn't happen all at once. It never does. It started with tiny rebellions. Going to bed without folding the laundry, letting a call go to voicemail, sitting on the porch and drinking tea just because I wanted to. At first, it felt selfish, wrong even. I had to relearn the idea that rest is not a reward you earn by burning out. It's a right, a need, a basic form of care we all deserve. I began therapy, journaling, and saying no without 5 paragraphs of justification. I stopped waiting for someone to rescue me and started rescuing myself one boundary at a time. The most powerful truth I learned: being responsible doesn't mean being selfless to the point of self-erasure. You can love your family and still choose yourself. You can be kind and still have limits. You can be soft and still say no. That's not abandonment. That's healing. That's remembering you matter, not for what you do, but simply because you are. So, if you're out there feeling the weight of responsibility, if you're tired of holding everything together while no one notices you're unraveling, let this be your permission slip. You can stop. You can rest. You can reclaim your softness without apology. You were never meant to carry everyone else forever, especially not at the cost of yourself. Thank you for spending time with me today. If this episode spoke to something in you, I hope you'll take a second to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and maybe even share it with someone who might be carrying more than they let on. And if you feel like saying "me too," the comments are open. This is your space too. Until next time, stay soft, stay strong,